how's it going? I got one person in anyways. I'm just gonna message. All right, guys. So things will start off soon. I just wanted to kind of get in here early. But yeah, in about 2 to 3 minutes, I'd say we're gonna start. Troy wanted me to kind of go over some questions that you guys might have. So if you guys have anything, just kind of start typing it in now and I'll answer it shortly. Okay, it's close enough. So I just wanted to kind of go over a little bit of the questions you guys might have right now. It doesn't have to be about internal giveaways. It could be about whatever you guys want it to be. And I just want to take this time to just kind of answer those questions. And then once I dive into kind of internal giveaways and kind of all the mechanic pieces moving, then it's not gonna. I'm probably not going to answer just a question right away. I'll go through the entire presentation and then answer questions at the end. So what I'm trying to do is we're going to try to answer some questions right now. And then at the end of the presentation, I'll also answer some questions. And it doesn't necessarily need to be about internal giveaways. So if you guys have anything, let me know. If not, then I'll probably get started shortly. As far as I can tell, I don't see any questions. So I'll just give it a little bit of time for you guys to kind of populate your questions. Okay. Okay, I don't see anything, so I'm just going to kind of go over like kind of the rules and a little bit of what internal giveaways are. And if I see something come up, I'll probably answer it and then I'll get into this. So essentially internal giveaways, just to kind of give you a little bit of context, is something I don't want to say I coined it, but it's just what I call running rebate giveaways with an existing ManyChat audience. And that's what I call it. You guys can call it whatever you want, but that's kind of what I've been calling it for a very long time. And I don't plan on kind of changing that. And I've never heard of anybody else talk about this or even mention this. I know there's a lot of sellers, they'll tell you like, oh, you need to build a list, you need to build a list, you need to build a list. And they never really tell you how you use the list, right? So once you have a list, it's like, okay, well, how do I use it? And then it's like, oh, well, that's up to you. So in this kind of video, we're going to be going in to how to use your audience. So let's go over the rules and then we can kind of jump in this. Okay, so I see something on the chat. Most sellers just want new people. Yeah, exactly. That's 100% true. Is most sellers, or even they just want to kind of get new leads and they don't particularly think about reusing them. I'm not saying you should reuse them all the time and never stop reusing them. And like, obviously you want to have some type of limit. That's kind of a different conversation. So kind of just the rules, right? So this is going to be lasting about 1 hour long. It might go a little over, maybe a little under, we'll see. If you have any questions, kind of, raise your hand, let me know in the chat. I'm trying to read and pay attention and, do this all at the same time. How to set up 50%. Okay, so that's a good question. Let me cover the rules and then I'll go over that. So the next thing I'm going to say is that you guys are probably going to want to, if I ever do, let's say unmute somebody, you probably don't want to have camera on and you don't want to have share sensitive information. So just keep that in mind that, you want to kind of keep your brand and all that to yourself, just, because everybody else is going to hear it. Another thing is the way you can kind of get a hold of me is just kind of raising your hand or, messaging in the chat. And that's about it. This is going to be recorded. I don't exactly know where it's going to be. It's a bit above my pay grade. That's something that Troy most likely would be better equipped to answer. But I do know somewhere in the back end, most likely at some point, I'm not saying now, it will be, kind of there in the Seller.tools backend where you can watch the recordings. As of right now, to my knowledge, it's not available. And I don't know when that will be available, but I can imagine it's going to happen soon. There's just a lot of things in the pipe right now, or at least in the works. So I don't think that's going to be one of the main focus points. Okay, so to go over the how do you do 50% rebate prices. So all you really need to do, and you know what, maybe I'm actually going to go inside Flow Builder here and just show you a little bit because I feel like that would do best. So let's just go into, okay, wrong place. Am I in the right account? I think I am. Yeah, I'm in the right one. So templates, that's not the right one. Templates. Then we're going to go into rebate automation. We'll just pick a reward. I mean, they're all more or less the same. So essentially what you would need to do 50% off is you would need to change the scripts. So by scripts, I mean the actual verbiage inside the ManyChat flows. So again, that the verbiage would be, this message right over here, this first one right here, saying, see how it says, I'll zoom in just a little bit more. You can see that. We'll message you a gift card, 100% rebate. Right here, you'd obviously want to say 50% rebate. And then you'd most likely want to change the verbiage right here as well, where it says 100% purchase price. So again, you would change it there. And then the next thing you're going to want to do, like other than changing the scripts, right? And again, one of the best ways to just go over scripts really quickly is actually to do it in Basic Builder. I don't really recommend Basic Builder, I would say 9 times out of 10, but this is kind of one of those times where Basic Builder actually comes in handy where you can like take a look at certain messages and be like, okay, does this mention anywhere but 100% rebate? Okay, I need to change that. Okay, so assuming that you've done all the script changes, okay, let's let that load. You want to go into Basic Builder and you want to change at the tail end. Let me just try to find it here for you, where it actually makes the gift card, which is right here. I think, let me just zoom in slightly. Yeah, so it makes the gift card right here. And what you want to do is you need to go a little bit before it actually makes that gift card, because this is where the gift card happens. And the way the gift card is made is actually through a custom field, like the value anyways, is made through a custom field, and it's usually tailored towards retail price. So if I go edit, I'm not actually going to publish the changes or anything. I'll just show you very quickly how to do this for yourself. You can go right over here and it's going to go, see how it says retail price right here? What you would want to do right after that is have an extra little action, right? And you would just go set custom field, and then you would find that same exact custom field, retail price. And let me just make sure I find the right one. So I believe it's this one. Obviously, you'd want to make sure. And then you would just take custom formula. Okay, let me just close that. You do custom formula. And what you're going to want to do is, okay, whoops, I didn't need to start typing it in. I was a little offset there. So you want to then go find the exact same custom field, retail rebate. Why can't I? It's a little odd. It's not showing up. I'll just click this, and then you want to go divided by. So you just do / and then 2. And then what this will do is that actually do 50% off, right? Because divided by 2 is essentially 50% off, right? And that's how you'd go about doing it 50% off. If you wanted to do like, I don't know, 75% off, then you'd obviously have to do some different math here. Or what you could do is instead of doing like this crazy mathematics stuff, you can actually just type in the exact retail amount you want to give them or rebate amount you want to give them. So that's the alternative option for that. So let me just reverse publications. So that's how you'd go about it. So like step one, change the scripts. Step two, change the retail price before it makes the gift card. Because again, the gift card, it's right here at the tail end, right over here. The way the gift card works is that it's going to produce a gift card for whatever value that this is at, right? So this retail price controls how much, the rebate is going to be for. And again, like usually that's all automated, but again, you can set it automatically to whatever you want right after this step right here. I'm hoping that made sense. So let's see, do we have any other kind of questions? Okay, I see that's the only other that's the only questions. I think I'm good to go into the main topic now. Okay, guys, so what are, internal giveaways? So essentially internal giveaways is just a optimal way to successfully kind of broadcast to your list in a like strategic way of making so you're like segmenting them in smaller groups or in a specific number. The actual term itself is just something I made up just because it's something I've been using for a very long time with a lot of the clients I've been working with. And I do have some examples later down in this kind of presentation going over all that. So again, just think of it like you're running a rebate offer to your existing list. And that's really what a rebate or internal giveaway is just you have an offer and you are now giving it to that list and not through like Facebook ads or other means. Like you're not doing advertising. Theoretically, you can do kind of paid advertising, but that's not where we're going to go. But anyway, so that's what internal giveaways is. It's just you're running it to an existing list inside ManyChat. Okay, so how do you do it? There are kind of three main steps or three main ingredients is what I call them. And the first one is you need a list, right? So that's pretty obvious. You need to have some type of list already existing inside your ManyChat account. The second thing is, and this is somewhat like kind of optional, but like it's really a key ingredient, and it's to have a way of segmenting your audience into smaller groups or customizable groups. So what this means is like you're able to message a certain amount of people inside your list. It sounds really simple, but believe me when I tell you it's not as simple as it is, because ManyChat doesn't have like, oh, I want to message 20 people out of 500. You have to like specifically do certain things in order to get that outcome. Okay, so that's step two, is you need a way of list management, which is another term I kind of coined. Is just essentially a way to control how many people you message. And then the third thing is you need to have a way of communicating with your existing list. So it kind of ties in with number one, but they are a little different. And this could be through, email, SMS, OTN, and those are kind of the main ways as of right now. I'm sure there will be other kind of means to contact your list, but right now those are kind of the main ways. You could technically say, okay, well, you can do a paid message and stuff, but like we're not going to go down kind of that rabbit hole right now. We're just going to go into kind of the more or less free ways. I know SMS and email do cost money when you send it out through ManyChat, but these are kind of the main ways you contact your list, right? Especially through the broadcast tab. Okay, so there is one question I'll just try to read. Okay, thank you. So nice. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to do is how to generate a list. So I'm not going to be able to go into a lot of detail into this just because, I mean, every single thing here could be, multiple hours of just talking about. So I'm just going to kind of give you guys some bullet point stuff. And some of this is probably things you guys have already done. One of them could be running, rebates through Facebook ads, right? So that's how you can build up your audiences through Facebook ads or other type of advertising. Influencers is a really good one, mainly Instagram. I'm going to keep kind of touching on Instagram. I know I've probably talked about it in my last previous call, but Instagram is extremely powerful. And I think once people start to really bring in results and it starts to become more in the community, you're going to see this way, way more. And I think it's something that I don't want to say everybody, but like people that are in a certain position should definitely be looking into. There's some really interesting things. I'm seeing a lot of really, really interesting stats on just the Instagram side of things. And you don't get as many deal seekers when you're dealing with that stuff. Anyways, so carrying on, the next thing is post-purchase. So these are just kind of insert card strategies, whether it be like a free gift or warranty or free ebook or free X content, or, there's a bunch of different type of inserts. Like, I mean, there's just a crazy amount of inserts you can technically do. And the those are one of the kind of strategies to bring in and get an audience accumulated. The other one is another kind of, I didn't really make this term up, but it's a term used in the email marketing space, and they're called solo ads. And essentially what a solo ad is just somebody emailing their list on your behalf. So what that'll look like is, say I have a list of 10,000 email like subscribers to my email list, and they're into whatever, right? They're into X brand, and they're into X niche, and you obviously sell a product that kind of caters towards that audience. Well, you can pay me a little bit of money, right? Whatever that would be, maybe $100 or something, and I would message my entire list on your behalf. And there's something similar that you can do within ManyChat, and I've done it for many different clients. And it's basically you just message, say, all the users on account A, and then you tell them, hey, account B is having a rebate giveaway. Would you be interested in joining? And then they would click a link, which is really ref URL, and it goes to the other account. And that's another way of making a list out of a pre-existing list on a different ManyChat account. So again, I've done that a couple different times. I don't want to say I've done it like 100 different times. I've done it at least probably 10 or 15 times for different clients that have bigger lists, and they just kind of want to help each other out. Or sometimes one client will literally have like more than one account, and then he wants to use this account, and then he wants to use that account later, or whatever the thing is, right? So that's another way of getting them. And then the last one here, I just put other, because there are other kind of methods, right? You can have sign up flows. So what a sign up flow is essentially just like, maybe it could be an advertising, or it could be like a Reddit post, or it could be like anything really. And essentially it's just a ref URL saying, hey, we're going to be launching a rebate giveaway soon. If you're interested, click this link, and the link would be a ref URL, and then it brings them to a sign up flow, and then that sign up flow signs them up, and so on. So a lot of different ways you guys can make an audience. It's not as linear as people think, where it's just like, oh, the only way you do it is through a Facebook ad, and that's the way it's been done, and that's the way it's going to continue to be done. It's like, no, there's a lot of ways you can go about it, and there's no right or wrong way. Like, I'm not saying Facebook ads is the wrong way. It's definitely not my preferred way, but again, it's not the wrong way of doing it either. So I'm going to explain kind of list management here. And essentially, list management is just a way of segmenting your audience into either customizable groups or small groups that you're easily able to broadcast to later down the line. And this is done through utility flows. And what a utility flow is essentially a flow that users do not interact with, meaning if they go through it, they would never even know about it. Usually that's because there are no messages throughout it. It's just like action steps and conditions that they go through really quickly, and they don't even notice. And I will show you examples later down the line. And this is, again, another term that I came up with, I want to say like at least maybe a year and a half ago, roughly. And it's just the way I've been able to manage and run internal giveaways. And again, I will show some examples of me kind of doing internal giveaways with one of the clients I've worked with. So the next thing is examples. So actually, like I said, I took a lot of screenshots to kind of go over things. And I kind of explained this a little bit already in the previous slide, where it's like a utility flow. And a utility flow is just something that the users do not interact with, meaning they don't have a direct interaction with it. Like, you can literally broadcast a utility flow to your entire audience, and ManyChat will let you, because there are no interactions with the users. It's just something, it's like a flow that gets broadcasted, and they don't see it, feel it, or anything like that. And there's a lot of use cases for utility flows. It's not just list management. It's sometimes you can use it for inserting X amount of information inside a Google spreadsheet, or whatever it may be. I know that used to work a lot more effectively. Now it seems like it kind of glitches and there's problems there. But anyways, I'm not going to go too much in that. So the first kind of screenshot I'm going to go into is my days list divider. And essentially what the days list divider, it was kind of my first iteration. Well, maybe not my first, but it was like kind of my second. And what it used to be is I used to have a bunch of different tags, and the tags would be called day one, list one, day one, list two, right? And those would be kind of the tags, and there'd be a whole bunch of them. And that's how I segmented my audience, is like I would just get them to go through this flow, and then that flow assigned them a tag, and then that tag was later on used to broadcast. And that was my first iteration of doing this. And I remember improving it several times, making it so like the flow was bigger. So this flow might not seem like a lot right now, but it's actually, I believe it's 21 flows long, because every single one of these it's another flow. and that flow looks similar to this flow, whereas it's like, it checks to see, oh, do they have this tag right here? If they do, then they won't go through this flow at all. They'll drop out. If they don't, then they go through the randomizer, and the randomizer decides where they get randomly put inside. Like this is day one, the day one kind of flows. This is the day two flows. This is the day three, and so on, right? And essentially, the flows inside day one are very similar, structured like this. It goes through a randomizer, and that randomizer then assigns them a tag, and then that tag is either like day one, list one, and it would look like that. This is my, I would say, old, outdated version, but I just wanted to give you some context on like how things progressed. Like I remember working a lot on this, and I thought this was amazing at the time, and then I figured out a better way. So the better way of doing this was actually what I call now list management. And list management actually gives users a unique custom field ID. And essentially with that ID, you're able to then be very specific and say, I want to target users from X to X. Like, so you want to say they need to have less than 0 up to 20. And then you're technically targeting 20 people unless they went extremely quickly through the flow. And sometimes it can give 2 users the same ID. It's pretty rare it does that. The only time it will do that is if you broadcast it to a really big list. And I'll try to cover that later. But essentially, this is what list management looks like. This right here was 21 flows. This is 1 flow. And realistically, I mean, I know you see like a whole bunch of time delays and randomizers here, but realistically, this is only 2 things long. It's 1 condition and 1 action. And that's really all it is. The only reason why these randomizers and time delays are here is when you're broadcasting. Because if you want to broadcast to your list and then put them inside the list management and assign them that unique value, you kind of want them to go through these time delays, so that way it doesn't bombard the system and like have too many duplicates. It will no matter what, it will if your audience is massive. So it's best to put your list management inside your kind of doorway flows, which is anywhere the users can be opting in from, right? So your rebate giveaway flows, your sign up flows, and so on. And I do have an example of going over kind of how to put these flows into play, but it's really, really simple. So again, this one here, the way it works is it checks to see if the custom field has a value. If they do, then it drops off. If they don't, then it goes over here. It checks to see what the bot field value is, and then it assigns that to the custom field, right? So if bot field value is 21, then it gives them 21 as the custom field. And then the next step is to just increase bot field by 1. So then the next person that goes through would get 22 and so on. Very, very simple. This is by no means extremely difficult to make. It just took me a while to kind of think like, oh man, this is so much simpler than the way I've been doing it. Just because I got complacent in the old way, and I was just like, oh, I'll just keep using more tags. So this is another example of segmentation. So segmentation is actually something a little different than list management, but they tie in well. So let me just go into segmentation. So segmentation is actually something you can do within ManyChat, and I might take the time maybe after just the presentation a little bit here to go into how to make segments. But essentially, segments is something you can find on the audience tab, and you can have certain conditions. And essentially, there'll be like a list of people. Obviously, there's nobody here just because this is just an example, but you can then segment people and then save that segment of users to the segment, right? In my case, it's just called example segment, but you would save it under whatever. And then you can then later on go into the broadcasting tab and then target that that segment of users. So if you wanted to target, say a segment of users that purchased the product, and then they also signed up for this and they showed interest in that, or whatever it is, right? You can be really specific and target exactly the amount of users you want to. With this kind of segmentation. I do use this sometimes just to see how many users I'm going to be broadcasting to, because when you do it, when you play with the settings inside the broadcasting tab, it doesn't necessarily show you exactly how many people it's going to be broadcasting to all the time. So sometimes I'll actually go into ManyChat's kind of audience tab and then create a segment and see exactly how many people. You'll see that right here at I want to say the top right, roughly, like kind of the middle right, when you're in the segment tab, and it'll show you exactly how many people. And like I said, in this case, it's 0, but so this is another use case of segment. This is kind of like a bonus, if you will. I actually use this I would say essentially more or less all the accounts I help manage. And all this is a way to kind of prune your list. And that's basically removing users that you can't really broadcast to. And essentially it's just like you have these filters, and if the users match that filter, then you should probably just unsubscribe them. You can technically do a paid message and get to those users. So there is a way to kind of reactivate them, if you will. But if they don't interact with your paid messages after a while, it's just, why keep them, right? Because I'm sure, as you guys are I'm hoping you guys are aware of, ManyChat works, their billing system works on how many subscribers you have, not how many messages you send out and so on. Mind you, if you're sending out message like SMS and emails, then yeah, okay, they're going to bill you like that. But in terms of subscriber count, they bill you like that. So if you have a bunch of dead weight subscribers, right, then it's just going to cost you a whole bunch of money for no reason. This isn't extremely effective when like you have like a list of like 500 plus leads, like obviously, and it's not really worth doing this. But when you start running into thousands upon thousands of leads inside your ManyChat account, this becomes somewhat of a relevant thing to do, just because you can lower the cost of just maintaining that account month after month. So I just wanted to throw that in as a bonus of a way you can use segments other than just list management. Well, I guess it does tie into list management because you're managing your list and you're trying to lower the cost. So how do you use the actual list management flow? I just took a screenshot, and this is just, again, an example. And this is the rebate giveaway flows, one of the newer versions. And I will have this at the tail end of the presentation, where you can actually access the newer flows. And essentially, all it would look like is once they get to a certain step, and I like to do it right after they agree to the terms and the rules, is they click the button, and then you just go to a flow, right? You start flow, and then you select the right flow, right? In this case, it's list management, and then it just pops out the other end. And again, they won't feel it, they won't know that they went through it. It's just a utility flow, and that basically makes it so it works really effectively and gives them a unique identifier instead of broadcasting to a whole bunch of people and then they all get like, some might get the same identifier as others, and it kind of messes you up down the line. This is the more effective way of doing it. So as people are going through, they're getting assigned a unique number. And you do that with your, what I call doorway flows, where it's like, those are the flows people are coming in from, right? The flows connected to JSONs, connected to ref URLs, connected to ways that they can kind of get into the bot. Okay, so let's go to the next one. So capturing the user's customer information. Actually, before I jump onto this, I'm just gonna see, because I see there's a couple of different chat questions here. Okay, yeah, okay. So listen, could you action rule instead? You could assign become, yeah, you could definitely do a rule where if they come in, they do a certain step, right? Maybe they get a certain tag, or they get through, or even subscriber. I guess that's a good one too. You can assign them, a number. That is one way of doing it. Definitely, a great way of doing it. It's just with ManyChat. I mean, as I'm sure you guys are well aware of, there's many ways to skin a cat, right? So there's no right and wrong way. Obviously, there are more efficient ways of doing things, but realistically, there are so many different ways of doing things. So if you see that I'm doing it a certain way and you're like, oh, I think I could do it a little better, by all means, do it. Because again, there's just many ways of doing it, and this is just the way I've been doing it. That doesn't necessarily mean it's right or wrong. It's just, again, the way I've been doing it. Okay, carrying on. So capturing the customer's information. This is, again, kind of the third key ingredient, right? Like we went over list management as well as capturing kind of leads, like our different ways of capturing leads. Now it's capturing, kind of being able to re-interact with the user after the 24-hour rule. If you're not 100% sure what I'm talking about when I say 24-hour rule, you're definitely going to want to take a look at some of the videos out there, kind of going over the messenger rules. But essentially, I'm going to break it down really simply. The 24-hour rule basically means you cannot message the users after 24 hours. There are some cases where you can, like post-purchase and so on, but most of the time you can't. And if you use post-purchase against their terms, then they will suspend your page, guaranteed. It's happened, and it will continue to happen because they've got many different algorithms in place that kind of see, whether or not it's a message that's TOS compliant. So I would not play with those tags if you don't particularly understand them well, or the 24-hour rule. One of the best ways around the 24-hour rule, in my opinion, is OTN, which stands for one-time notification. And essentially, the way you capture this one-time notification is through an OTNR, which is found inside ManyChat. The first thing you need to do is you need to enable your page to be able to capture OTN. And again, if this is something that's a little new to you and you're like, oh, I don't know how to do that, there's a lot of videos on that. So that's nothing too complex there. It's literally like you go into the back end, you go you go into settings, and then you go into advanced messaging, you scroll down slightly, and then you go, I think it's OTN request, so something like that. I can't memorize it like that, but essentially there you click a button and then bam, it's approved. Unless you're in the EU, which is just unfortunate because they you can't do it then. But anyways, carrying on. So you want to be able to remessage your audience. So there's kind of only 3 good ways right now. And that's through email, phone numbers, right, SMS, or OTN. Those are the 3 main ways we're going to be talking about. There is technically paid messages and so on, but I'm not going to be talking about that in this conversation. This is going to be, just for this. That's kind of a different presentation all on its own. So in terms of just emails, I mean, that's something that if you're running rebates, you're pretty much capturing that almost no matter what. So you're able to actually subscribe users to ManyChat's email provider. And I don't want to talk bad about it, but it's not the most reliable, meaning it'll most likely end up in the junk folder. It seems like it's getting better in terms of like the ManyChat side of things. But I will say that it mainly ends up in the junk folder, which is kind of unfortunate, but that's what happens. The best way of communicating with them is really either by text messages or by OTN. Those are like really king. Email is not the most desirable platform to contact them. It's not the worst, but it's just not the best either. So I would highly recommend that when you are bringing in subscribers, that you're always thinking about, okay, how can I capture an OTN so I can message this person outside of this 24-hour rule? Like, so when you're building your bot and you're about to run traffic to it, try to have things in place that you're going to be capturing these phone numbers as well as OTN. You can do a bit of both. One thing I do in terms of when I'm running rebates is I'm actually, as soon as they go through giving me the order number, I actually ask them like, hey, would you like to be notified of future rebate giveaway offers? And then there's a little button saying yes. And then they would click it, and then it then goes to an OTN thing. Okay, click notify me, and then they would click that, and then it thanks them for doing that. The alternative to doing that, you can also ask them like, hey, would you like to be notified via text message when we issue your rebate? And then bam, you can capture their phone number like that. So there's a lot of creative ways you can do this. Just because I do it like this doesn't necessarily mean you have to either. So let me see. So some of the other examples I have here is joining through what I call a product tester club, but really that's just whatever your rebate giveaway program name is, right? You can be like a VIP club or XYZ name. I usually call it product testers club. That's what I've been calling it for a long period of time, but I know some sellers that call it something different. So notifying them about the order status change. Again, that's a really good way to capture either phone number or even OTN. I wouldn't lean towards that. Really, realistically, I'd lean towards more phone number. Like, hey, when your order is shipped, would you like to get notified via text message? And then I usually get, I want to say 60%, like they'll do it, and then the other 40% won't. But that's usually kind of my win rate with it. And sometimes it's higher, sometimes it's lower, so it kind of fluctuates. But usually it's hovering around 60% in terms of like, hey, would you like to get notified via text message about your order status change? And then they'll sign up for it. Obviously, you have to do some customizations inside the free flows to notify them and actually build that in, just because that's not there by default. And I'm unfortunately not going to be able to cover that just because there is kind of a limitation in time and so on. So that is a good way to capture phone numbers. Subscribing new, yeah. So you can also let them know like, hey, would you like to be notified of new subscriptions or news updates? And then if they click yes, then you can capture OTN through like that. So those are kind of the main ways of capturing OTN, as well as their phone number. Again, there's a lot of different ways, and I'm not saying mine are like the best or the only ones. These are just the ways I've been doing it, and they've been working well for me. So the next one is now we're going to go over actually broadcasting. So this is like the part where you're actually doing the internal giveaway, right? Because like without broadcasting, you're not giving any messages to anybody. So I'm going to be going over some screenshots. And the first one's going to be going over kind of how the flow works. And again, this will be something you guys will have access to, later on in the presentation. I'm going to give you guys a Google document, like a link to it, and you're going to be able to, in that Google document, there's going to be a whole bunch of links to templates. And one of those links is actually going to be kind of an example. Well, it's not really an example, but it's an add-on internal giveaway flow. And essentially what it looks like is this. This is what it looks like. So you start here, and then it goes through what I call like kind of a time randomizer. And this is really effective if you want to target, like, let's say you want to target, okay, so I'm just going to kind of make up a scenario here. You want to give away 10 units, right? And you kind of have, you kind of like, okay, to give away 10 units, I probably have to message maybe 25 people. We'll say 20 just to keep it simple. So in order, I need to, message 25 people. And I don't want to message these people all at once and then have them order it all at the start of the day. I want to have sales throughout the day, right? Just to make things look a little more organic on the Amazon side. So what I've done inside this flow here, and this is like literally the exact same flow I use, more or less. I mean, there's a couple differences here and there,
Hey,
but
Tyler.
oh yeah.
Hey, can you zoom in on that? On the flow itself?
Oh, oops. Oh, now it's just going a little nuts here. So
What you may want to do is just present on that slide.
Here, let me.
Like,
okay, I'm trying to zoom out now. Now I'm like super. Okay, let me refresh the page because I feel like I'm way too zoomed in. Unfortunately, I don't think I can because it's an image, right? What I could do. Okay, let me make this simpler here.
You're gonna give away. Oh, there we go.
Okay, so this is going to make things a little easier. So I know it's hard to see like that. Because when I see this, I know exactly what happens because I built it. So to me, it's like, oh, this is easy. Okay, so let's go over this. So one of the things that's kind of inside all of my buildings or my flow templates is that you're going to see kind of different instructions here. They're called comments, but I have instructions, optional steps, and notes. I don't think I have anything. Yeah, no, there's notes here. So instructions is something you need to do. Optional step is something that you can, it's like an optional step, right? So it literally says it right there. And then notes is just something for you to consider. So again, always read the comments. I know it's kind of annoying because there's a lot of them, but take the time to just read them because it will basically tell you what you need to do. Anyways, so carrying on with this now. So the way this starts is like the users will come right here. They go through this randomizer. And again, this is the optional step. You can have a time delay or you can have no time delay. By default, it has no time delay. So if you want to have a time delay, so you're broadcasting throughout the day, trying to get sales throughout the day and just making it look a little more organic and keeping your BSR kind of lower to the ground instead of having a big fluctuation at the start of the day, right? This is how you would do that. And then the next step is you want to edit this to match your product name. So whatever your product name is, you'd want to edit that right over here. So assuming that's all done, then it checks to see if the user's in the blacklist, just to make sure that we're stopping as many bad actors as we can, like Troy would say. And then the next thing is checking the kind of counter to make sure there are still units available. So in case, like, this is really handy because let's say somebody comes in, okay, let's say you broadcast to those 20 people, like I said, and for whatever reason, like you had a really great day and there's already 10 people that bought, and the last person, right, the 12-hour delay, somebody's coming through and then they get hit with the counter and there's no units left. Instead of messaging them, hey, would you be interested? It actually stops them and it just waits for a day and then it'll keep looping until there's units available for that person. So this is kind of a neat little thing here just to make sure that you're not messaging somebody without having units available and then later down the line confusing them. So that's that. Then the next part is this is the kind of omni-channel condition here. And essentially what this does is this actually, okay, actually maybe I should zoom in. So this one here, it checks to see if they've already purchased the product because obviously we don't want them to repurchase the same product. Then it checks to see, okay, is SMS available? If it is, right, if they've opted in through SMS, then it sends them this text message right here, bam. And then it actually goes through this to see, okay, is email available? And then it, if email's available, if they've opted into that, then they get an email. And then it goes to this condition and it says, okay, well, is one-time notification available? or is their last interaction less than a day ago? Usually this one will never happen, but I mean, I just added it in there just because. So if one-time notification is on too, and they have it, then it'll actually send them this. So it could technically send them 3 different messages on 3 different platforms. But usually it's like, if they have SMS, they might not have email, or maybe they don't have one-time notification on. But again, you can technically remove this. Again, they're editable to match your goals. But this is how I've been doing it. Is I usually send people, SMS, email, and one-time notifications. So like they're getting that message somehow, and they're going to read it at some point. So that's how that works. The 1 day, like less than a day interaction. There's the reason why I have that is just in case there's a small segment of people that have interacted with the page within that day period, then you actually don't need to use your one-time notification. Even if they have it, you're like, you know what, I'm going to save that for later. So you can then message them just via like a normal message. And the reason why this looks a little funny here is like, oh, the flow should be going to itself, because that's what actually this is. It says flow goes to itself. But the instructions is you should replace this flow with your rebate giveaway flow. So that way you're pushing them all to that rebate giveaway flow. So I made this purposely so you're able to just, make it so it goes there. And then the way you do that, I'm just going to show you guys really quickly because I feel like I might have butchered the explanation there. But the way you do that is you just click this little X, right? You click this. Well, first you'd hit edit, and then you go into here, click this, you click exit, and then you'd find your rebate giveaway flow. So I'm just going to pick one of the templates, for example. So let's go right here, Visa, and then you say boom. And then now it's going to the Visa one. And then that's how you would kind of connect those flows together. And all this would be done technically through the broadcasting tab. I'll go into that real soon here. I'm just going to reverse the publications because I don't want to actually change that. Okay, so that is this kind of screenshot here. So that's essentially this flow right here. So I know, we covered that fairly thoroughly. This is the broadcasting tab. And again, the broadcasting tab, guys, is found right here on the left side. And it's like by this, I guess, this paper plane type of logo, and it's right here, broadcasting, right? You can even just click the paper plane and it'll bring you straight there. And one of them I just did before the presentation because I figured I might actually be here. It's like, this is the exact same flow that we were in, right? And then this is the settings. So let me just go into the settings now. So this is the settings right here. See how it's like this? This is actually the pretty much exact same screenshot I took. Now in the settings here, this is where list management comes in. This is where your targeting comes into play because you get to decide who you're going to target. And the reasoning why I have it like this is because this custom field is that unique identifier I was talking about. And there is many different ways you can kind of segment this audience. You can literally go by a segment if you want, right? So like, remember I was talking about there's audience and then there's a segment you can use. So again, there's like literally so many different ways of doing this. So there's no right and wrong way. I'm just showing you guys the way I do it. The way I do it is I go, message people that are in between 0 and 20. And this should be, theoretically, this should be a perfect 20 amount of people that are in here. The reason why they're saying like, why is there nobody here is because there actually isn't anybody because nobody's been assigned this number in this specific account. So that's why that's there. But if you wanted to message more people, let's say you wanted to do 25, right? So I'd just change 25. And then let's say you've already broadcasted this segment of the audience. What you do is you go, okay, well, I've already messaged these people, so I'll go 25 and then I'll do 50. Bam, now you're going to be messaging 25 people. So that's why it's super simple. And it just makes sense for me. And you can obviously schedule this too. So that way you can actually schedule it for the morning. So like say, let's pretend like Troy's like, oh, I want you to message X amount of people in the start of the day. And I'm like, okay. And then I message him at 8. And if I do this properly, see like the flow right here, I could say, okay, he wants it to go throughout the day. So what I'll do is I'll just change this. So it's 0% and this is 100%. And now it's going to go through these kind of time delays. And now it's going to message people throughout the day instead of all at once. And this is just kind of that smart way of doing it. So you don't have to sit there and babysit it. There's other kind of rules here you can do. You could like do regular, push. I just keep it the same. I don't particularly play with this. I remember playing with this a little bit just because I was like, let's play with this. But it doesn't really change anything. I wouldn't really look down there. This one here, I remember changing a couple different times too. But with the time delays at the start, really no need to this. Send all at once is just like you send all of it and then it sends it all at once, just like it says. Travel time is like sending it users time. So this can kind of mess you up a little bit because let's say 8 o'clock for me is definitely maybe different than somebody else on the others like specific time, right? So this can mess you up by basically making it so some individuals will actually get the message the next day and not the day of, like the day you plan on selling on broadcasting them, and then limit message sending time is just like you kind of limit the time here when you want it to send. It's kind of like it's kind of like travel time, but a little bit different because there's like a limit stop. Again, I don't play with this at all. I usually just keep it the same here. The only thing I play with is the targeting, and then sometimes I schedule. Sometimes I'll just broadcast right away. So these are the only two things I play with. Again, you guys could take the time to play with these other settings if you really want to. Okay, so and by the way, Troy, if you want to jump in and like if you think there's something I'm not explaining properly, like let me know, because again, this is to me this is all really standard stuff because I've been doing it for a very long period of time, but I know for you guys it might not be as standard and this might be like crazy. um
No, I think it's great. What I would just double down on is, the clients that you work with when they're using seller tools. I mean, they have the lists that are 50, 100, 150,000 people.
I like how you said that
So
because I'm gonna get into that right now actually.
yeah, but I
So
think it's where the best practices get refined. That's where your insight becomes very valuable because it's the scale is there.
yep,
You sort of find what works, whether it's timing of messaging and how it's treated and the flows themselves. So, but no, I think you're breaking it down just right. Looks great.
perfect, awesome, thanks. So again, this is now I'm going to go into kind of use cases, right? So this is like one of the clients I've worked with. Um, and this is just kind of one of the accounts I've helped kind of manage. Again, they have a team, so like I'm not going to pretend like I'm doing all the heavy lifting. I'm just kind of teaching them and showing them what they should do, showing them different kind of steps they should take, making them videos and so on. So I'm not really doing the heavy lifting, if you will. I'm just kind of training people to be able to do the heavy lifting. So in a way, I'm like a gym. I'm teaching people how to get buff so they can lift the weights themselves. So this is one of the accounts, and all the screenshots are actually on the same account, by the way. So this one account here, you can see that we broadcasted 880 times, and most of those times were for internal giveaways. I would say probably 95% of those times were for internal giveaways. So essentially, the vast majority of this is for internal giveaways. And as you can see, like it's not like we're sending huge messages to like hundreds of people, right? We're just sending, whatever, 17, 10, 9, whatever it is, because we're just trying to get like X amount of sales. We're not trying to get, 300, like we're not trying to message the entire audience is what we're trying to do, is what we're not trying to do. And this is just a way of controlling how many people you're messaging. So as you can see, like I had to blur obviously this because it shows the product name, but as you can see, like this is something that I use often, like, and the clients I work with use extremely often as well because it works and it's a really good way to use the list you already have and not need to constantly fetch more people. Okay, so this is an overview of kind of 2 months span, and essentially this is actually an event I use within ManyChat, and this isn't something that's within I want to say the free flows. It's something you'd have to customize because it's a conversion event. And I have a conversion event called purchase rebate. Realistically, I should probably change the name, but anyways, that's what I named it. And essentially, this is what happens when somebody claims a rebate offer. So as you can see, in this specific account, there's been over 10,000 rebates in the course of 2 months. I want to say the tail end why it's going down here is because he's actually launching less products right now. So that's kind of why that's going down. We're doing less ranking efforts, but I believe that's going to ramp up soon. At least that's what he was telling me. So yeah, that's kind of why that's there. And over here, obviously there was a big bump, like some days almost doing like 450. I would say we probably average more like 100 and maybe 200, roughly speaking. So that's kind of the average day to day. And this is mainly done, like, I don't want to say this is only done through rebate giveaways because I'd be lying, but a lot of this is done through rebate giveaways, like a lot. Like I would say at least 50 to 60% of it is done through rebate giveaways. And then the other alternatives is like, insert cards where somebody will, get a free gift, for example. And then from there it says, hey, would you like to participate in XYZ? and then they go there and then they go through a rebate giveaway menu, and then the menu shuffles them to whatever flow they want to, whatever product they want to get. And that's one of the other methods. And then the other method is just the standard Facebook ad, which is something that we try not to do. But again, it is a good way to get some to get users. And this is kind of the audience over time. So as you can see, like it ramped up fairly quickly because like I forget exactly when we started this account, but this is the same time period, by the way. Like these two time blocks are the exact same, as you can see, from May to June the 30th, which is just yesterday. So you can see that we're not getting that many new people, but we're still doing like roughly, I mean, obviously that this dropped off, but we're still doing like roughly the same amount of rebates. And the only way you can do that is if you're doing internal giveaways. Like that's the only way you can do it. Because if you're not getting new blood, then you have to reuse the one the blood you've already have, right? So the users you got. So like I said, that's kind of the power of rebate giveaways. Is like you're able, or internal giveaways, is you're able to use those customers, those leads that you've already acquired from other advertising. And of course, it does cost you technically a little bit of money to send an SMS and email, but like, compare that to a Facebook ad, you're saving some money. So in conclusion, essentially, the way this works is you guys really want to be very mindful of the flows you're building. When you're doing like rebate giveaways, or you have sign up flows, or whatever it may be, and you essentially this is kind of another term I've had. Every doorway, meaning all the places people can come in from, you want to have your list management flow. Again, it doesn't have to be the one I'm using. It can be whatever version you have. But you want to have some type of list management. And that's usually like a utility flow that segments people, so that way it's easier for you to broadcast to them later down the line. And then you also want to be mindful, right? So not only you want to be mindful about the utility flow, you also want to be mindful about capturing that user's information in a way that you can then later on market to them, right? So you want to be able to capture those emails. And emails is not my preferred method, but you want to be able to capture emails, SMS. OTN is honestly really good too. I know some people are a little skeptical here and there on OTNs, but I've been using it a lot and I've never received any flack for it. So OTNs is a really great way as well. But if you are a little on the skeptical side, or maybe you're on the EU side, which unfortunately, well, we're not going to get into that, but unfortunately it is what it is on that side of things. So you're going to have to maybe focus on the phone number side, which I know right now it's only available for the United Kingdom, I believe. But there are some apps that let you actually message people, if they're in the Netherlands or something along those lines. The EU, just unfortunately, it's a different ball game when you're playing with that side of the world. So it makes it a little harder. So a lot of this was tailored towards the US market, maybe the Canadian market, and so on. Just because running things there is so much easier than running it just in Europe. So I'm hoping that kind of makes sense. I haven't been able to read any of the questions, but I'm going to go into that right now. Do you have any that you saw that maybe popped out at you, Troy? Or you're not there
Oh,
anymore?
yeah, I was just looking at the questions as well. Yeah, I think there's a few in here from Jocelyn, collecting both emails at the beginning. I think that's always great too to think about. It's a really good gateway step too. Phone numbers are going to become even more important, so we'll definitely have more on that too. Do you have a separate OTN topic for each of those strategies?
So most of my OTNs actually are kind of all saved in one. There are several different, like I have a couple different ones, but they're mainly go all through one OTN, which is like, I call it like rebate giveaway notification. I believe that's what I call it. But anyways, it's that that OTN. And then I also have another OTN that goes for asking for review. So I use that one as well. But those are really the only two I really mainly use. I'd also use specific OTNs for my sign-up flows. So like, let's say I'm about to launch I don't know, a phone case, right? Just because those sell really well on Amazon. So I'm launching this phone case and I'm asking people, hey, are you interested in X phone case? And if they say yes, then I'll have a specific OTN for that specific product because they're interested in that specific product. Because usually my OTNs are very open-ended, meaning like when they're in my rebate flows, I just say, hey, would you like to be notified of future rebate giveaway offers? And then the OTN is a general OTN and not specifically to a specific product. But if you're doing a sign up flow that's for a specific product, then you should have a specific OTN for that specific product. So I'm hoping that made sense. Okay, so I see a question here about add to cart strategies and what works best for add to carts. Now that is a very good question.
I think that deserves a training session.
Look, the way I do add to carts is significantly different than what most people do, and I don't do it through the traditional sense. And I don't know if I want to really put exactly how I do it out there, because like it opens up a different can of worms. It will just put it that way. But I don't do anything crazy. Like I don't do any spin the wheels or any Facebook ads to get, add to carts. Maybe at some point we could talk about that, but that's a really long topic all on its own.
Yeah, I think we can unpack some other strategies that are in that same spirit. I did share before, and I will just make sure I share on this call. And great to see everybody again too. And those I can tell some people coming back and some new attendees. So I want to drop this article in here because this will highlight some of the other things that we could break down for more advanced, pre-purchase prompts. And we touched on a little bit of link laundering. And one of the things that we are going to start sharing with those that are attending, and I think Tyler is actually preparing to do this, is we want to give flows that also incorporate a lot of the strategies that we're touching on. So you'll have advanced notice, you'll have first access, beyond the insight and information. And Tyler did an amazing job because, again, he is working with clients that are doing this at a very large scale. And we try to do the same thing with our brands. You guys might have seen an email that just went out that showed how we ranked for some of our top keywords this past week. Yeah, and I see Tyler, you just dropped it in there too. So yeah, I think future trainings can really break down some of those specific things. Obviously, we won't make Tyler do anything he's not comfortable with, but I think there's a lot that you guys will see that we can continue to break down that will benefit both the ranking and review side of things.
And some of the stuff that I just want to hint a little bit at this, but like there's a lot of things coming down the pipeline that even myself is excited for. In terms like it's kind of available in the beta, and I definitely recommend you guys kind of jump on that because then that means not only will you have access to kind of these early calls, but you'll also have access to some early features. But yeah, there are some really amazing things coming down the line. Part of me is really looking forward to that, just because it does change the game a little bit. I'm not going to say it's going to revolutionize things, but it's definitely going to add like another level of filtering. And that's all I'm going to say to that. So inside the call or inside the chat, I just linked the Google document. I would highly recommend, because after the call, obviously, I don't know exactly where these recordings are going to be or anything like that. So I definitely recommend you maybe bookmark that. And essentially, that's just a Google document where I'm going to be placing all the newer, the beta flows is what I'm going to call them, the templates. And you can see all the templates. Let me just go over this very quickly and then I'll try to answer another question here. But essentially you can see all the different templates that I touched on, right? I know I didn't touch on the rebate giveaway flows, at least not in this call. I touched a little bit on it last call, at least I did my best. But again, there's a video overview there, and then there's all the template links as well as over here. And then the bottom right here is the list management flows I was talking about inside the call. So this is the old version. So let me just put this in parentheses, old version. And again, like, is there one version better than the other? I would say this one is better, but again, like it's not wrong or right because there's just many ways of doing things. New version. So again, this is the two utility flows I was talking about that segments people inside a specific audience, and you can use whatever method you like. And then this one here is just kind of internal giveaways, the actual add-on to being able to broadcast to your list. So this is just that template right here. And those are just those flows. Yeah, so that's that. Let me see. Could you please share the link? Okay, so here, let me just, I don't know if it's because I said all, so let's just do this again. There we go. Um, now let me see. I remember I saw a different question here. Best way of building strategies for new sellers that can take advantage of rebates. Okay, so if you're starting out, that's a good question. So if you're starting out, I'm not gonna lie, the Instagram side of things is a very, very, very uphill battle. And by uphill, I mean imagine going through a concrete like a brick wall and not one brick has been removed, right? The first brick is always the hardest to take out because what you need to do is you need to basically contact influencers and influencers are pretty smart. What they're going to do is if they're kind of sketched out, they're going to go on your profile and they're going to check it out and they're going to be like, oh man, this guy only has X followers. Oh, this guy has like no post. Oh, this guy has no social proof. Oh, this is kind of weird. This is scammy. Because you have to remember a lot of these people on Instagram are not used to seeing rebate giveaways. Like to them, it's like alien. It's like, what the hell? These are scams. This is a scam. Like, let's just, so they're really skeptical. And if you don't have the social build proof, if you don't have the social proof on your Instagram account, then it's going to be an extremely difficult battle. And if you do, let's say you have a brand account and you don't really want to tie it to your brand, so you're like, oh, I'm going to make a new account, you're going to have an uphill battle, like a very, very hard uphill battle. I had one client that used his main account and it was super simple. It was just like, because it had that social proof, it was actually tied to the brand and so on. And it was just super like, cutting butter with a hot knife. It was simple. But then when you do it with a new account and it's got no followers or very few, and that there's no posts, it's so difficult. So the biggest part that I would do if you're doing that is perhaps do a Facebook ad and try to build up social proof. Meaning when you do issue rebates to people, ask them to comment on the Instagram post that's tied to whatever product, right? So if you do, a rebate giveaway launch, you make a post about it, right? Like an Instagram type of post, like, hey, from here to here, we're going to be giving away X amount of units. Join if you're, bios in the link if you're interested. And then have people engage with the actual Instagram post. And you can easily do that. I'll show you guys like one of the best places to do that. And this is something I used to do with my Facebook ads all the time, by the way. Like, it's super good to build social proof on stuff. So I'll just pick a reward one. Okay, so right around, I want to say, where is it? Yeah, right around here. So see how it says, we verified your orders. You'll receive your rebate once it's been shipped. Right here, instead of just not having anything else, A, you can have a button saying like, hey, would you like to sign up for future offers? Or B, you can say like, hey, we'd really appreciate it if you took the time to leave a comment on our Instagram post or on our Facebook ad or XYZ. And then you leave a link to that Instagram slash Facebook ad. And that will build social proof. Social proof is like the equivalent of reviews for Amazon sellers. It's like really important for social media. So if you're going to do it brand new, you have to understand that it is a very uphill battle, and B, you're going to want to try to build as much social proof as possible early on, and focus on the smaller influencers. Like even if you're focusing on like people with 500, 200 followers, it's like yep, better something than nothing. So again, try to build that social proof up slowly. It is a painful process is all I'm going to say. By no means, I'm not going to pretend it's easy. It's very difficult. So,
Awesome, Tyler.
let's
I know we're right at that hour mark.
I see that. So, have you've been reading the chat here because I don't want to miss any questions and somebody's like, oh, you didn't get to me. So I see here, how can I import our audience into an Excel document into ManyChat? So I'm assuming what you mean by that is you have an Excel document and you want to go through ManyChat. Is that what? How can I import art into an Excel document into ManyChat? So if you want to import all your leads, like if you have email address, for example, you can actually do that. I believe over here. I can't. You can go create like this, and then I believe there's a way. Because the problem is I don't want to tick these off because then it's going to show the entire audience and all that, and obviously that's not something we want to do. I believe there's some YouTube videos out there that could show you, but if you have like let's say a big audience and you're like, oh, I want those leads to go into my messenger, it's not going to work. It can only bring in the email leads. I think you can bring in SMS leads as well. That's something I would definitely YouTube or just search for because I'm not going to be able to cover it here. I believe it is doable though. But if you're looking to just, you have an audience from one account and you just want to grab that audience from said any ManyChat account 1 and you just want to put it on ManyChat account 2, you can't do it unless you're running a solo ad, which that's another kind of topic all on its own. And I think I covered that a little bit. For Instagram, is it okay to give them a Facebook page? I have it. It's like, is it okay to give them a Facebook page? I have a few posts, 307. Yeah, I think that's fine. I don't think you're going to get any kind of flag saying like, oh, here's my Facebook page instead of my Instagram account. I don't think that's a terrible thing. I will say, however, it might work more effective if you do make an Instagram account and you start building social proof there instead of dealing with the Facebook page. I know it's more work and it's grinding and it's not the funnest thing in the world. But you know, this kind of business, the Amazon kind of business isn't really gardening. It's like actual work. You're just not just planting seeds and all of a sudden the next day like a huge tree pops up. It's a grinding process. So there's a lot of work that not yeah. Okay, so let's see what else do
I've
we
got to
have
run,
here?
Tyler. Just real quick. I know you're doing an awesome job of answering questions, and if you guys are enjoying this, please let Tyler know.
Yeah,
He's
yeah, definitely try
humbly
to.
humbly um, doing a great job, I think. So
Mhm.
if you
Yeah,
would just share that in the comments, and I just dropped a link. We posted this in FBA Kings. Would love any feedback or positive words for Tyler. Again, I think he's doing an awesome job. But I've got to run. But Tyler, if you want to, yeah, keep doing what you're doing, but wrap up when it
yep.
works. And great seeing everybody.
Yeah. So I'm just add to that. So basically, I take orders from Troy, obviously. So if he says, "Oh, this isn't providing much value," he's gonna say, "Oh, well, let's pull the plug," right? So in reality, if you guys want to keep seeing this, then technically, you guys should probably, go show some love and maybe like the post and so on. Maybe leave a comment saying how much value you got and so on. So definitely, definitely do that if you guys want to see more. If not, then I guess do nothing. But yeah.
Awesome. Yep. Great seeing everybody. Thank you, Tyler. As always.
Yep. We'll see you soon, I suppose.
That sounds good.
Okay, so I'm just gonna finish answering this, guys, and then I'll be kind of wrapping it up here. Yes, tons of work. So just don't. Is it okay to build up? Yeah, I mean, it's not that I would try to keep it centralized. The more accounts you have, the harder it is, especially to limit the different kind of like, so I have one client and he does a lot of rebates. And essentially he has more than one account and like it's kind of a pain in the butt to make sure, we're hitting our targets, but not exceeding the targets because we have different accounts, therefore there are different counters. I use limiter, which is just tied to like a bot field. Um, but essentially, if you have more than one account, it's just harder to manage things. So I would advise trying to keeping it all centralized. I know it's not the most ideal because, if Facebook does ban you or, they have an off day and, off you go, then it's like, oh man, you got to restart. So I would say maybe have backup pages, but try not to, like just do things within TOS and you most likely won't get banned. Like I haven't gotten banned like basically ever. And I've been working with huge clients. Like there's some pages that have gotten banned because they were doing some interesting activities. But as long as you're doing it right and you're using the right kind of flows and templates, and the new templates I did make are like TOS compliant. Like I made sure, because I know some of the older ManyChat flows are a little, well, they're definitely gray in some areas. So I made sure that they're good to go. So if you want to use like take a look at these kind of rebate automations, they're very similar to the old ones. I would say they're actually easier to edit. And I didn't go nuts on these because I could have went significantly more nuts than I usually do. Um, but I wanted to keep them very simple for you guys so that way you guys are like able to edit it. It's easy for everybody. So let's see. I think I answered kind of both those questions. I'm gonna say I did. Um, whoops, I'll just say they're done. Okay, next thing here. I'm trying to pull up the chat here. It's all closing on me. Okay, so if I missed any questions, guys, can you just repost it? Because I'm scrolling up here and I'm like seeing the same questions a couple different times. Is there a good way to sell this to the clients? Okay, so is there a good way to sell this to clients? Man, I'm not gonna lie, some clients it's really tough to work with. And I am in that kind of space too, where I like, I do work with them and I pitch them a little bit here and there. But if they're not ready, they're not ready. So I would say try not to sell them and just try to hear them and then work on whatever their I guess pain points are, right? So if like they're saying, oh, we just want rank reviews, which is what 90% of them want, then you just give them strategies that help them rank reviews. Building up a Instagram account isn't technically going to lead to rank reviews, but you can say, hey, these Instagram buyers have better buyer scores, and therefore their reviews are going to stick long term compared to Facebook ads. So although the Facebook ads might be instant gratification, these Instagram stuff might not pay off at first, but it'll pay off in the long term, because then you're going to cultivate, a better audience, and those reviews will stick. Um, and something just to kind of add here, and this is like a really big nugget. One of the clients I work with, he did like a split test between Instagram and Facebook, and the ad was basically more or less the exact same. It was a sign up flow, right? There's like, we're launching this product. Are you interested? And then it was just going to a kind of sign up flow. And we did it through Instagram and on Facebook. And the ad spend was basically identical. And we got about 500 leads from Instagram, and we got about 150 from Facebook. So the potential on Instagram is really big, even for just advertising. So that's kind of like a huge avenue right there. And if you're able to use those Instagram influencers, or not, there wouldn't be influencers, there'd be users, I guess, in this case, and then build up social proof afterwards, and like tell them to start like, posting on a comment, or posting on a, or Jesus, commenting on a post. It builds up social proof, and social proof is the equivalent of reviews on Amazon. So the more of that you have, the more an Instagram influencer will be like, oh, this is legit. They got all these comments and stuff. Okay, I can get behind this, right? Um, and are you sending the IG leads to Messenger? Yeah, for now that's kind of what we're doing. Because like I don't have, I know one client like tried, getting one of those accounts. We tried buying one. Still kind of in the works, but yeah, I'm just kind of sending them through Messenger for the time being. Sometimes we do back and forth. We give them, I forget his name, but he named this pretty good, the mother-in-law experience, or the mother-in-law experience, which is basically just saying you have to do the back and forth with them and be a human, and just have a conversation with them, tell them, hey, we're doing this, and we interested if you'd be, or wondering if you'd be interested in participating in it. We're just looking for some feedback, as well as a post, right? You could tell them like, hey, this is what we're looking for, and at some point I'll have like most likely an SOP on this. But it's just like you kind of do this generic test of like what you're looking for, and then they tell you whether or not they're interested, and then you do a little bit of back and forth, and then after all that, then you could say, hey, just to make the product process a little bit more expedient and simpler on our side, we have an automated flow. Here's a ref URL, or here's a link, go through it, and then the link is a ref URL, and then they go through your remade automation. And of course, you can be on the other side, making sure they go through it safely and so on. So that is that. I think I answered everything, guys. If I didn't, I'm sorry. But I'm gonna give it one more minute, and then I'm gonna kind of hop off. So if I did, miss your question, just ask it now. Okay, so is it a good idea to run ads just for product? I've done that before. So essentially the question is it a good idea to run ads for product testers, right? So like the product tester club, like having a sign up flow. I've done it in the past. It doesn't work that well. It only really works if you have a product in mind. So if let's say you're about to launch a water bottle, right? You say, hey, we're about to launch this water bottle. Would you be interested in? And then that leads to a sign up flow. Just a general product tester club doesn't work well. I'm not going to say it doesn't work at all. It does work a little, but it's not nearly as effective. So if you're okay with spending a lot of money on it, then I guess sure. But it would definitely not be my first avenue for getting people to sign up to your stuff. So let's just say done. Okay, guys, I think that's it. Okay, awesome. Okay, guys, enjoy the free flows. I definitely like if you guys could, leave me feedback on it or so on. I'd definitely be highly appreciative of that. Let me know how things go for you. And yeah, that's it. All right. Yep. Good stuff, guys. Keep at it. All right, bye.